Mondays. There's this motivational saying where every day's a Monday. But you know what? That would really suck. Because for some people out there, Monday is the beginning of the worst next 5 days of their life. Now that's pretty damn depressing. So let's try and change that.
Right, so this is the 2021 BMW 228i xDrive Gran Coupe. That's a lot of words for not a lot of car. Not dissing it or anything like that, but come on, we're talking about a non-M, all-wheel drive, base trim, 2 Series sedan. There's really not much to write home about. Then again, that's kind of what Mundane Mondays are all about. The underdog, the race car in disguise, the car you buy your kids when you send them off to college. Hopefully I'm not insulting anybody here, but a lot of you guys know that this is mainly a performance car channel, so either way, I do like giving the little guy a shot too. But Mundane Mondays, it's gonna be more lax. You know, I'm still gonna inject a little bit of track day love, but for the most part, I want it to be more easygoing, not as scripted. So what that means is you might hear me ramble on for a little bit more, or you might hear me make dad jokes, or you might hear my wife over here talk about how great her X6 is. Who knows? Yeah, I've been driving this car for a few days now. It's an interesting piece. See, it sits on the bottom of the totem pole in terms of BMW's hierarchy. You know, you've got the X1, the X2, the 2. It's basically a budget BMW. Now, that's budget is a sort of relative word or subjective word, because this car starts at about $37,500 for the xDrive model. This particular car, I think, is about $41,000. And, you know, that's not cheap. That's not budget when you think about the word budget. But hey, you know, maybe you just really like the 2 Series, or you just can't afford anything else, or you live in the city. I don't know. But that's actually not true, because BMWs are really affordable if you think about it. They're probably one of the best leasing luxury cars out there. You can probably get this car in the mid 300s per month if you work your cards right. Not a financial advisor or salesman or anything like that, but that's just my opinion of this car. Now, one of the caveats is that with this budget model, you get BMW's slowest possible combustion engine, and that's the 2-liter turbocharged inline-4 that makes a whopping 228 brake horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. And that's not bad. But what is bad is the listed curb weight, and it's 3,550 pounds. 3,500 pounds for what is a subcompact sedan is, to me, it's ridiculous. I think that gets me angry. Like, why is this car so heavy? What is the point? It's not like it's filled with leather. There's no heated seats. There is a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. It's not like a big V8. Because if you think about it, my Corvette Z06, that weighed 3,600 pounds or 3,500 pounds because it had a big V8. Mustang GTs weigh about 3,700 pounds. Big V8. So why does this little 4-banger weigh almost 3,600 pounds? Anyway, you'll have me rambling all day about that. Let's talk about something else though, the performance. There aren't too many figures out there in terms of, anything beyond a 0 to 60 time because, well, I don't think anybody really cares. It's a daily driven kind of beater, not a beater car. It's not a performance car, right? So I don't think anybody really focuses too much on that. However, we do. Specifically me. I love that kind of stuff. So what I want to do at some point in this episode, we're going to take it to our airstrip and we're going to do some really crazy high-speed runs with it to see what kind of times it puts down in the real world. What I don't get though is They make a 230i for the coupe version of this car, and that has 20 more horsepower. Why couldn't they just jump that over to this? You know, that would have made a lot more sense. 220? I'm such a terrible Asian. 250 horsepower, right? So it's about 248 horsepower. You're looking at, that would make this car really fun, and it actually would just demolish it in terms of the competition. Because I feel like what BMW did was they downrated this car so that it can play ball with the likes of the A3 and the CLA 250. And that's basically what this car competes against. So like the A3 makes like 228 horsepower as well, but then the CLA 250 makes like 221 or something like that. So BMW could have easily just blown them out of the water, used the 230i engine, and had 248 horsepower. It would have been magnificent. But hey, it is what it is. But in terms of just the competition, I feel like BMW always sits right in the middle in terms of price point, because the A3 is, I think, 36 grand for the all-wheel drive, and then the CLA 250 is 37.8. So like just basically a little bit more than this car. Enough about, you know, just the theoreticals and the information you get on the internet. How does this car drive? Well, let's start with the fact that BMW loves to pride themselves in calling it the ultimate driving machine. And yeah, they do a pretty good job. Even this 2 Series, I feel like, you know, it's a little numb overall, but it's not terrible. You know, I'm in comfort mode right now, and I can say that the suspension isn't overly harsh. It isn't very plush either. That's to be expected. It's fixed rate. It's not adjustable. There's no adaptive suspension like in in our X6 or whatever like that. It's kind of just a tiny bit stiff, but it's way better than our old Mazda. It's nothing like our X6. The closest thing I can compare it to is maybe the E6535. So it's definitely drivable wherever you need to go. You know, there's a lot of bumps that we kind of go over, not here, but like parts of our journey. It's just unbearable, but this makes it kind of okay. In comfort, the steering is quite numb. There's a little bit of delay before actually anything really happens, so even if I go into sport mode, it's just really adjusting the throttle response, engine response, I guess, the steering tightness, and the transmission. Speaking of the transmission, I don't know what it is, but it's an 8-speed auto, and it doesn't shift great. You know, if I get on it, it's kind of like my Barth 124, maybe just a hair better in terms of just responsiveness and shift speed. The downshift situation is okay too, but you don't really hear any exhaust note either. It's pretty quiet, and that's a love-hate thing, because, you know, on one hand BMW loves to pipe in exhaust noise to make you feel more like a man, but on the other hand it's just like sometimes I just want to be a man. I don't want to, you know, I don't want the car to make me feel manlier. But hey, this is okay. I think this is fine. I'm okay with it being quiet because it's not trying to be something it's not. Let's talk about the xDrive. This is an all-wheel drive car, but it feels like a front bias all-wheel drive system. If you throw it into a corner at 8/10, it'll handle pretty well, because what it feels like is the front wheels turning almost immediately, and it gives you that very nice sharp turn in. However, at the limit at 10/10, there is absolutely understeer, which is a given. You can't avoid that. But then again, let's go back to the whole thing where it's just like, come on guys, this is a 228i, you know, who's tracking this thing? Who cares about who's driving this to the limit and understeering into a wall? Nobody, except for maybe me. But it's fun to drive, okay? So it's not a track car. If I put this on a track, I will be immensely disappointed. However, it is quite entertaining to drive around some back roads. You can push it, it'll feel confident, but other than that, I think there's not much to talk about in terms of sportiness. And on top of that, the fuel economy, don't even get me started on that, because I've been trying to get this thing down empty for like the past 4 days now, and I've been in Sport Plus, well, there's no Sport Plus, it's just Sport, but I've been in Sport traction off, I've been in Sport shifting mode, I've been pretty much just being a hooligan all around town, and I've gone down maybe like a bar, maybe 2. Then on top of that, I just left it on for like 24 hours and went down 1 more bar. So fuel econ, I don't know what the actual EPA rating on this car is, but it's pretty damn good. You know what? I might be biased because I spend a lot of my time in cars with like 6.2 liter V8s that, sip fuel like it's whiskey. I might not be the best judge of fuel economy. In terms of the interior, I think I might have mentioned this, or maybe I didn't, but it does not have heated seats, and it doesn't have a full digital dash. It's this kind of like faux pseudo digital thing going on here, because you can see like these little gauges, they're still analog. If you look at it like when they're off or when there's light beaming in, you can still see the backdrop where you can see the actual analog kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but the analog motors or whatever. The problem with that is you've got competitors like Audi and Mercedes with their complete digital dashes, and at that point it's just, you're blown out the water, because the Audi one is gorgeous. They've been gorgeous for like 3 years. The Mercedes one is super cool because it's pretty much almost the same thing as the one in the G-Wagon, and it just feels premium. This just feels like a small upgrade from our old Mazda, and that's not what I want to feel when I'm paying almost double the price. The only thing that BMW does well is that they have wireless CarPlay, and I don't know if what other car company does this, but I know BMW does it because our X6 has it, the M4 CS has it, this car has it, which is nice. You don't have to connect your phone to a physical wire for it to, project to your navigation, and I really appreciate that. And it's just anytime I get into the car, CarPlay works just like that. But I'm glad this thing has paddles though. Check it out. I've got the same paddles as an M340i, our X6. The same kind of like, they're not terrible paddles, but they suffer the same kind of problem where like I need to like really grip the steering wheel and have like really long fingers to get to them. But I can say that it's not too terrible. The steering wheel, not the biggest fan of. The materials aren't that great. I don't know, there's just something about it just doesn't feel very premium. Ultimately, the interior of this car, I don't know, it's confused, I think. Over here, you've got a lot of more expensive looking stuff. Like this is the same kind of layout in our X6, right? So this is cool, I guess. It makes me feel kind of annoyed that I didn't get the glass crystal option for our X6, because now I feel like I'm driving in a 2 Series all the time in a $100,000 car. But I mean, then at the same time, I'm also glad I didn't get it, because remember that one time when we were in like Spain and we got the glass option in our M850i, and the sun like beamed in into the crystal, hit me in the face, and then we almost ended up off the cliff. But yeah, let's not talk about that.
And we were driving up Mountain Road.
Yeah, it was exciting times. But surprisingly, this car is, it's a subcompact car, but there's quite a lot of usable room. In the back, you've got enough room for a baby seat comfortably, probably a little bit more than we did in our Mazda, which is surprising because I think the cars are almost the same length, but you get a little bit more leg room back there. Like I said, it's not a bad driving car. I think it's pretty sporty for what it is. It just doesn't excel at anything in particular. Especially, like I said, the luxurious feel, the feel of the interior just doesn't really do it for me. I don't know, I don't think it's a particularly bad looking car, but it's not really a good looking car either. I do have a soft spot for this kind of color palette though, which is, I guess you can call it Battleship Gray themed. BMW calls this color Storm Bay Metallic, but I can't see too much metallic flakes in it. Unless you hit it just right with the sunlight, then it'll sparkle a little bit, but other than that, it's pretty muted. In my opinion, it's kind of like Audi's Nardo Gray, except a little bit cooler. But let's take a look at this front end here. You've got typical BMW design cues from more expensive cars. You got like the, let's see if the angel eyes will, yep, the angel eyes will turn on like that. The square angel eyes, I like those. And then you've got this grille, which is a little bit bigger. There's a cover over the engine that actually opens up at, I think, above 10 or 15 miles per hour and lets more air in and cools down the engine bay. Initially, I thought it was non-functional. I thought it was just a look, and I was really gonna bash BMW for that, for making like a fake front grille or whatever. But this front bumper design, it's kind of really soft. I mean, you could opt for the M Sport package, which gives you a more aggressive looking front bumper, but at that point, you might as well just get the M228i because it's like another $3,000 option for that bumper. Anyway, these are also upgraded 18s. They've got run flats on them. Not too interesting. I mean, they're better looking than stock, but whatever. I think the rear of the car actually looks better than the front of the car, and that's mainly because of these kind of continuous 3D taillight thing going on here. They started this design with the 3 Series. They have it on the X6. They have it on the X4. I think it makes the car look more premium than it actually is. I do appreciate the dual exhaust pipes because otherwise they used to just stack them on one side and that just makes it feel like a poverty spec car. So this is cool. This, however, fake vents, not cool. We have it on our X6 and I just wish they did something for real instead of being fake. Overall, I feel like the car, I think it looks good for its target demographic, which is a younger audience, younger drivers who want something German, want something sporty, want something semi-luxurious, but they don't have the big bucks to shell out. You know what? This wouldn't be a track day review if we didn't do any acceleration tests. So let's just head over to our airstrip and do something I care about. So the first thing we want to do is put on our racing gloves because, you know, race car, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go into drive, obviously, sport, traction to sport, whatever traction is.
Okay, foot on the brake, floor the gas, and surprisingly, it'll activate launch control.
Wow, look at that wheel spin. Oh my God, I feel like I'm being punched in the back. No, it's gonna take forever. So let's, this time we're gonna do this in full manual, but I wanna see the shift lights go on. Ready, here we go. No launch control. Oh, fuck, what the hell? Okay, so it's basically 6,500 is not 7,000.
Not exactly the fastest thing we've tested, so as expected, the car wasn't able to complete one of our favorite metrics, the 60 to 130. Luckily, this is the precise reason why I came up with the 40 to 100, and that's what we'll start with. The 228i did that in 11.71 seconds, and that's a hair faster than our tuned-up Barth 124, but that car is slow. More importantly, it can run with an EcoBoost Mustang that has 310 horsepower. Essentially, it's the fastest slow car that we've had on the channel thus far. Next up is the quarter mile. The car did that in 14.17 at basically 98 miles per hour. We don't have anything else to reference it to, but I'm glad we were able to publish this time since I haven't seen anything official on the internet myself. Half mile is a bit crazy for something like this thing, but hey, it's what I'm here for. 120.42 miles per hour. Faster than I would have guessed, and I'm sure if you modded the BMW, it might be able to keep up with the Lotus or an older G-Wagon. Now last and certainly least in my book is the 0 to 60, which the 2 Series did in 5.97. We don't factor the 1 foot rollout here, so if you want to take that into account, it's close to the 5.7. Still a bit slower than the Audi A3, but I can see how this metric matters more for slower cars. If you want to see more data, check out the link for the fast list in the description below. Now it's time to move on to my final thoughts.
So I think it's about time we talk about that elephant in the room. And no, it's not that this car is really heavy or that it's got the same exterior color as a large leathery mammal, but it's because, you know, we usually compare BMWs to Audis and Mercedes. However, I've been seeing a good number of conversations on the internet about how this thing is essentially a extremely overpriced German version of a Toyota Corolla XSE. Yeah, I don't know what you're smoking because sure, they look alike when you're drunk, but come on guys, 228 horsepower versus 169, all-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive, turbo versus NA, the list goes on. Even in its most expensive trim, the Toyota is 12 grand cheaper than the BMW. And there's one thing that Toyota can't do, and that's tuning. If you go and do full bolt-ons in this car, I guarantee you'll probably see around 300 horsepower. I think that'd be decently quick for essentially what is a subcompact car. But if you need 300 horsepower, then you should just step it up to an M235i. But then at that price point, you might as well get a 330i. But then you saw Dan Wang's review of the M340i and you're like, wow, that's a really great car. But then suddenly you find yourself in an M3. I don't know, it could happen. At the end of the day, if you're shopping this car, whatever your needs may be, whether it's, you need a beater, you need a daily driver, a car for your wife, car for your kids, this car is just okay for all that kind of stuff. It doesn't excel at any particular department. See, I love BMW, but as a budget luxury car, what an oxymoron, but as a budget luxury car, it just doesn't do it for me. You know, the CLA and the A3, they're both significantly better options. And at this price point, I really don't care about performance that much. So you're better off just step it up to a CLA or step it down to a Toyota or Civic. Just that simple. Sorry, BMW. Love you guys, but not this time. You think this is a wireless charger, right? It looks like a wireless charger to you? So what I would do, I did this for like 3 days. I was like, okay, let's charge my phone. And then I come out and there's nothing happening. And, you know, so, is that officer looking at me? The good thing is that this car is very kind of so mundane that I don't think cops are very, right over here, this guy, I don't know if you can see him, but I don't think they suspect me of doing anything dangerous, even though I'm totally capable of, I'm gonna race this guy off the line.